Edessa was an ancient city in Upper Mesopotamia, refounded on an earlier site by Seleucus I Nicator, and is now Şanlıurfa, Turkey. Names. The earliest name of the city was Adma, which first appeared in Assyrian cuneiform sources in the 7th century BC. A Hellenistic settlement was founded on the location of the Syrian town by Seleucus I Nicator in 304 BC. The new settlement was named Edessa, after the ancient capital of Macedonia, perhaps due to its abundant water, just like its Macedonian eponym. The native Syriac name of the city, or Hay, appears to correspond with the toponym Antiochia Kalahar, Antioch by the Kalahar, which is found on Edessam coins struck by Antiochus IV Epiphanes. The same name appears also in Armenian as transliterated Ura or Aha. In Arabic it is transliterated as Aruha or Aruha, commonly Urfa, and Riha in Kurdish, to the Frankish Crusaders Roe, and in Turkish Urfa, Alfa, Şanlıurfa, or Şanlıurfa, its present name. During Byzantine rule it was named Justinopolis. History. In the second half of the 2nd century BC, as the Seleucid monarchy disintegrated in the wars with Parthia, Edessa became the capital of the Abgar dynasty, who founded the Kingdom of Osroene. This kingdom was established by Nabatean or Arab tribes from North Arabia, and lasted nearly 4 centuries, under 28 rulers, who sometimes called themselves king. On the coinage, Edessa was at first more or less under the protectorate of the Parthians, then of Tigranes of Armenia. Edessa was Armenian Mesopotamia's capital city, then from the time of Pompey under the Romans. Following its capture and sack by Trajan, the Romans even occupied Edessa from 116 to 118. Although its sympathies towards the Parthians led to Lucius Verus pillaging the city later in the 2nd century. From 212 to 214 the kingdom was a Roman province. The Emperor Caracalla was assassinated on the road from Edessa to Carrhae by one of his guards in 217. Edessa became one of the frontier cities of the province of Osroene and lay close to the border of Sassanid Persia. The Battle of Edessa took place between the armies of the Roman Empire under the command of Emperor Valerianus and Sassanid forces under Shahanshah Shapur I in 260. The Roman army was defeated and captured in its entirety by the Persian forces, including Valerian himself, an event which had never previously happened. The literary language of the tribes that had founded this kingdom was Aramaic, from which Syriac developed. Traces of Hellenistic culture were soon overwhelmed in Edessa, which employed Syriac legends on coinage. With the exception of the Syriac client King Abgar IX, and there is a corresponding lack of Greek public inscriptions. Rebuilt by Emperor Justin, and called after him Justinopolis, Edessa was taken in 609 by Sassanid Persia, and soon retaken by Heraclius, but lost to the Muslim army under the Rashidun Caliphate during the Islamic conquest of Levant in 638 AD. The Byzantines often tried to retake Edessa, especially under Romanus Lacopinus, who obtained from the inhabitants the Holy Mandalion, an ancient portrait of Christ, and solemnly transferred it to Constantinople, August 16, 944. This was the final great achievement of Romanes's reign. This venerable and famous image, which was certainly at Edessa in 544, and of which there is an ancient copy in the Vatican Library, was brought to the West by the Venetians in 1207 following the Fourth Crusade. The city was ruled shortly thereafter by Marwanids. In 1031 Edessa was given up to the Byzantines under George Maniacs by its Arab governor. It was retaken by the Arabs, and then successively held by the Greeks, the Armenians, the Seljuk Turks, the Crusaders, who established there the county of Edessa and kept the city until 1144, when it was again captured by the Turk Zengi, and most of its inhabitants were allegedly slaughtered together with the Latin archbishop. These events are known to us chiefly through the Armenian historian Matthew, who had been born at Edessa. In 1144 the city had an Armenian population of 47,000. Since the 12th century, the city has successively been ruled by the sultans of Aleppo, Sultanate of Rum, the Mongols, the Mameluks, the Akoyunlu, the Safavids, and from 1517 to 1918 by the Ottoman Empire. In 1890, the population of Edessa consisted of 55,000, of which the Muslim population made up 40,835. Role in early Christianity. The precise date of the introduction of Christianity into Edessa is not known. However, there is no doubt that even before AD 190 Christianity had spread vigorously within Edessa and its surroundings, and that shortly after the royal house joined the church. According to a legend first reported by Eusebius in the 4th century, Syriac king Abgar V Ukama was converted by Adai, who was one of the 72 disciples, sent to him by Judas, who is also called Thomas. Yet various sources confirm that the Abgar who embraced the Christian faith was Abgar IX. Under him Christianity became the official religion of the kingdom. As for Adai, he was neither one of the 72 disciples as the legend asserts, nor was sent by Apostle Thomas, as Eusebius says, but a missionary from Judea who evangelized Mesopotamia about the middle of the 2nd century, and became the first bishop of Edessa. He was succeeded by a guide, then by Palaut, who was ordained about 200 by Serapion of Antioch. Thence came to us in the 2nd century the famous Peshitta, or Syriac translation of the Old Testament, also Tatian's Diates Aaron, which was compiled about 172 and in common use until St. Rabula, bishop of Edessa, forbade its use. Among the illustrious disciples of the school of Edessa Badasanes, a schoolfellow of Abgar IX, a Christian council was held at Edessa as early as 197. In 201 the city was devastated by a great flood, and the Christian church was destroyed. In 232 the relics of the Apostle Thomas were brought from Mylapore, India, on which occasion his Syriac Acts were written. Under Roman domination many martyrs suffered at Edessa. Sts. Sharbel and Basamia, under Decius, Sts. Gurja, Sharmona, Habib, and others under Diocletian. In the meanwhile Christian priests from Edessa had evangelized eastern Mesopotamia and Persia, and established the first churches in the kingdom of the Sassanids. Attilatia, bishop of Edessa, assisted at the First Council of Nicaea. The Peregrinatia Silvia gives an account of the many sanctuaries at Edessa about 388. When Nisibis was ceded to the Persians in 363, Ephraim the Syrian left his native town for Edessa, where he founded the celebrated school of the Persians. This school, largely attended by the Christian youth of Persia, and closely watched by Rabula, the friend of Cyril of Alexandria, on account of its Nestorian tendencies, reached its highest development under Bishop Ibas, famous through the controversy of the 3 chapters, was temporarily closed in 457, and finally in 489, by command of Emperor Zeno and Bishop Cyrus. When the teachers and students of the school of Edessa repaired to Nisibis and became the founders and chief writers of the Nestorian Church in Persia, Miaphysitism prospered at Edessa, even after the Arab conquest. Under Byzantine rule, as metropolis of Osron, it had 11 suffragan sees. Lequien mentions 35 bishops of Edessa, yet his list is incomplete. The Eastern Orthodox episcopate seems to have disappeared after the 11th century. Of its Jacobite bishops 29 are mentioned by Lequien, many others in the Revue de l'Orient Chrétien, some in Zeitschrift der Deutschen Morgenländischen Gesellschaft 261 SQQ. Moreover, Nestorian bishops are said to have resided at Edessa as early as the 6th century. Islam. The Armenian chronicler Sabios, bishop of the Bagratunis, gives the earliest narrative accounts of Islam in any language today. Sabios writes of a Jewish delegation going to an Arab city after the Byzantines conquered Edessa. 12 peoples, representing all the tribes of the Jews, assembled at the city of Edessa, when they saw that the Iranian troops had departed. Thus Heraclius, emperor of the Byzantines, gave the order to besiege it. So they departed, taking the road through the desert to Takistan to the sons of Ishmael. The Jews called the Arabs to their aid and familiarized them with the relationship they had through the books of the Old Testament. Although the Arabs were convinced of their close relationship, they were unable to get a consensus from their multitude, for they were divided from each other by religion. In that period a certain one of them, a man of the sons of Ishmael named Marmot, a merchant, became prominent. A sermon about the way of truth, supposedly at God's command, was revealed to them. He ordered them all to assemble together and to unite in faith. He said, God promised that country to Abraham and to his son after him, for eternity. And what had been promised was fulfilled during that time when God loved Israel. Now, however, you are the sons of Abraham, and God shall fulfill the promise made to Abraham and his son on you. Only love the God of Abraham, and go and take the country which God gave to your father, Abraham. No one can successfully resist you in war, since God is with you. Islamic tradition tells of a similar account, known as the Second Pledge at Al-Aqaba. Sabios' account suggests that Muhammad was actually leading a joint venture toward Palestine, instead of a Jewish-Arab alliance against the Meccan pagans toward the south. Cultural. The oldest known dated Syriac manuscripts, containing Greek patristic texts, come from Edessa. Following are some of the famous individuals connected with Edessa. Jacob Baradius, an ardent Miaphysite who preserved the Orthodox Church after the persecution subsequent to the Chalcedonian controversy. Jacobites. Jacob, bishop of Edessa, a prolific writer. Theophilus, a Maronite and astronomer, who translated into Syriac verse Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. Stephen Bas-Udili, monk and pantheist, to whom was owing, in Palestine, the last crisis of Origenism in the 6th century. The anonymous author of the Chronicon Edessenum, compiled in 540. The anonymous writer of the story of the Man of God, in the 5th century, which gave rise to the legend of Saint Alexius, also known as Alexius of Rome.